Hi, so I thought I would do a little mashup review. So back in May, I reread Crash Into You by Katie McGarry, which is this book. And then at the beginning of June, I read Take Me On by Katie McGarry, which is her most recent book. And so I thought since I had read both of these in fairly close proximity, I would do a little review mashup of the two of these books. So these are the third and fourth books in the Pushing the Limits series. It's weird because they're like companion novels, really, and I would highly suggest reading the series in order. So read Pushing the Limits, Dare You To, Crash Into You, and Take Me On. If you choose to not do that, I definitely suggest reading Crash Into You at least before you read Take Me On, because if you read Take Me On first, you will get spoiled for parts in Crash Into You because they take place, they have overlapping timelines, so just a word of warning. So Katie McGarry writes contemporary young adult fiction. It's not really like light, fluffy contemporary. It's definitely a little darker. It deals with some more intense issues, and it can be a lot more emotional and dramatic, in my opinion, than say like a Sarah Dessen novel. And I feel like Sarah Dessen deals with some pretty intense issues, but the way in which she deals with them makes it a little lighter. So each book is told in dual point of view and follows a couple, so you get the alternating perspective. She writes really well developed characters, and both parts of the relationship always have issues or are damaged or have things they need to work on, which I really like. I feel like a lot of times in contemporary it's just one of them, usually the girl, who has issues, and then the guy like fixes everything and saves the day, and I don't know. So it's nice to see two people who have issues, which is pretty normal. I mean, life. She's also really good at blending the romantic tension that our characters are experiencing and the more dramatic tension of the book, like whatever the non-romance plot line is. Let's start talking about the actual books. So we'll talk about Crash Into You first, which came out in 2013, and I did read it last December. I actually got it for Christmas and read it on Christmas Day, but I decided to reread it in preparation for Take Me On. And this follows Rachel and Isaiah is in Pushing the Limits and Dare You To. He is Noah's like best friend from Pushing the Limits, but Rachel is a new character for us. And Isaiah is a foster kid, and he's fairly close to aging out of the system, and he just wants to find a job that'll be stable for him and have a good life, but he's dealing with a lot of issues with his family, things like that. Whereas Rachel is this girl that seemingly has a perfect life. She's wealthy and she goes to the best private school, and her parents basically give her whatever she wants, but she's really hiding a lot of secrets. Her family has gone through a really bad tragedy that's basically affected all of them, and in a way it's affected Rachel the most. And she also struggles with panic attacks, and she struggled with them years earlier, like to the point where she was hospitalized for them. But because she saw how that was affecting her family, she decided to start hiding them, and they thought she was over them, but she really wasn't. So the whole, like, you're just experiencing these issues with her. And what brings these two, like, completely different people together is an illegal drag race. So Isaiah races and loves cars. He fixes cars. He's trying to get a job doing that. And he has a job, but like a full-time job. And Rachel also loves cars. It's one of the things that makes her different and odd, is that she loves cars. She gets mad because she asks for one type of car for her birthday and her dad buys her something else, thinking she wouldn't know the difference. But she does, and she like fixes her brother's cars and everything. So one night after she has a bad panic attack, she goes and ends up driving and ends up going to an illegal drag race. And when the cops show up, they leave together and spend the remainder of the night together, which kind of starts their relationship going. And then some other events in the book kind of just push them together, where they have to continue to spend time together, which forces them to deal with their attraction for one another and all of that good fun stuff. I'm not a huge car person, but the way Katie McGarry writes it, I felt like I kind of understood what was going on, and I at least understood why both of them cared so much about their cars. I thought it was fun that that's something that Rachel loved so much and her brothers didn't. It's just not something, a hobby that girls normally get, but it is something that girls can like. There's nothing wrong with that, so that was nice to see. And then honestly, Isaiah, I was not his biggest fan in the first 2 books. I found him kind of annoying and whiny. I was kind of apprehensive to read this, but I fell in love with him, and I think he's my favorite out of all of Katie McGarry's like male characters. I really care about him, and I love him so much. Additionally, I think Rachel is probably one of the most honest protagonists. She has some thoughts that I feel like might possibly offend some people, but she's allowed to have them, and I'm so glad that Katie McGarry was willing to put those things in writing. I don't want to say what they are because I think that's spoilers, but I really respect both Katie McGarry and Rachel. And again, it's hard to go without talking about spoilers, but Rachel goes through like a huge change in this book. She goes on this great personal journey, and that's probably one of my favorite parts about the whole book is her journey. I love their relationship. Rachel comes into this relationship thinking that she's very weak and that she needs to be taken care of, but through her relationship with Isaiah, she realized that she can protect herself. She is a strong person, and I love that they become this team and they help each other, and they both help each other grow and work through their various issues. That's something Katie McGarry does very, very well, instead of just having one rescue the other. I honestly have no complaints about Crash Into You, and like without a doubt give it 5 stars. Like, read it. Well, read the other books and then read it for sure. So now let's talk about Take Me On, and I feel like this video is really long, so I will try and speed it up. So Take Me On, like I said, follows Rachel's brother West and this new girl Haley, and West is kind of, he has some issues as well, and he is always getting into fights, and then one night he ends up on the wrong side of town and he runs into Haley. He actually almost hits her with his car, and he's just gotten kicked out of his private school for getting into fights constantly, and he ends up getting into a fight to protect her, even though she tells him not to do that. And the fallout from that event is that he ends up agreeing to fight somebody else in a mixed martial arts tournament. So she feels like she has to help him, so she decides to train him. She used to be a kickboxer and ended up quitting for various spoilery reasons, but goes back into the world to help train him since she feels responsible for him being in the situation he's in. There's some other things that help their relationship grow and bring them together, but those are definitely spoilers. Those are actually probably my favorite parts of the book. Something happens to West with his family, which like broke my heart. I was just, oh my god, I can't even imagine. But it's something that brings them together and makes them, I think it helps bridge the socioeconomic issues between them. And I did really like getting to know West. I thought he was really interesting and complex, and I just felt, like I said, so bad for him. He goes through so much, and I enjoyed reading his POV and what he was going through and everything. He seems like kind of a player when you read him in Crash Into You from Rachel's perspective, but here you get like a completely different perspective because you're in his head. But Haley I struggled with. Definitely sympathetic to her situation. She is in a really tough spot, but I just had trouble connecting with her. We never got enough, I felt like, for me, like enough of her emotions, enough of her backstory. Like there were some questions I needed more answers to, and it just made it hard for me to fully connect to her, which by default kind of made it hard for me to fully connect and get invested in their relationship. That just kind of was a drawback for me, so it became a 4-star book instead of a 5-star book, but I still think it's really good. I will reread it, I am sure. I still love Katie McGarry's writing in general, and I'm sure tons of people wouldn't have an issue with Haley. It's just a personal thing for me. Now, really quick, I want to talk about like my favorite part about both of these books, and that is the character Abby. So Abby originally shows up in Crash Into You. She is a friend of Isaiah's, and she ends up becoming really close with Rachel, and then because of those relationships and other things, she is involved in West and Haley's story, and she's freaking hilarious. When you first meet her in Crash Into You, you're just like, am I supposed to like this person? Am I not supposed to like them? Are they good? Are they bad? And she's so interesting. She's like an enigma. We don't know that much about her, but we get these hints just constantly placed throughout the books that just make you want to know more. And she's so insightful. She's very wise, and unfortunately she's wise because she's been through some really tough things. We don't know what really, but all the hints point to having gone through a lot of issues. I know that a lot of people like Abby, and I saw Katie McGarry had tweeted that people like really wanted an Abby book, and she really liked that people loved her as much as she did, but she didn't say she was going to write an Abby book. And I really want an Abby book. I think I've said this before in a video. I really, really love her. I don't care if it's a romance like these or if it's something else, if it's just her story. But I really want it to be a book and not a novella. I feel like Abby is like this really complex character that we really need to spend 300 or 400 pages with getting to know. And I just really love her, and I want to know more about her and have all my questions answered. I want to know so badly. And just to wrap everything up, I would definitely recommend Katie McGarry, especially if you like romance. Like I said before, these aren't light-hearted contemporary. They're more deep, emotional. They deal with some pretty intense psychological issues. They can be really tough. Like, I don't think they're too much. I mean, it's not like Hopeless by Colleen Hoover, but it's pretty intense. If you haven't already checked her out, I would go pick up Pushing the Limits. If you've read Katie McGarry and you like her books, let me know down in the comments. If you've read Katie McGarry and you know other authors that write books similar to her, also let me know so I can check them out because I really, really like it. And thanks for watching. Bye!